Durango, Colorado sits in the southwest corner of the state, just north of the New Mexico border, and is surrounded by the San Juan Forest. The city is best known for the historic narrow-gauge railway and the Million Dollar Highway. Join us as we explore this incredibly scenic piece of Colorado. We are Hannah and Jeremy, and this is part 3 of our epic Western road trip. We started our trip in Utah, starting in Bryce Canyon National Park to see the hoodoos, and then headed to Zion National Park to accomplish some bucket list hikes like hiking the Narrows,
we continued on to Arizona and headed to Horseshoe Bend and drove the 17-mile scenic drive through Monument Valley. We visited the Four Corners State Monument and officially crossed off another state, making this number 34 on our goal to visit all 50 states.
We then headed into Colorado towards our next destination of Durango. After getting checked into our hotel, we decided to spend the evening at the Durango Hot Springs. Colorado has 93 known thermal areas, including natural springs, all over the state. There is a long history of hot springs in this area, with some believing that the waters in natural springs enriched with minerals have healing properties. The Durango Hot Springs have multiple different pools, all with varying temperatures, so you can find one that's just right for you.
The next day, we headed downtown to board the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad. The railroad runs both a diesel and a steam engine. The diesel train departs the depot first at 8:15 since it's faster, so we had time to grab coffee before our train left at 9. We always make it a point to visit local independent coffee shops when we visit a new place, and if you're here, it's definitely worth a stop at Durango Coffee Company.
The Durango and Silverton Railroad is a historic 3-foot narrow-gauge railroad that operates on 45.2 miles of track between the historic towns of Durango and Silverton. The ticket prices for the round trip range from $110 to $225. The first-class seats are reminiscent of the era of luxury train travel. The coach class is a vintage enclosed standard rail car, and we chose the third option, the open-air gondola. Our trip was in the end of September, so temperatures were still pretty mild, but if you pick this option, it's worth bringing a jacket just in case.
So like the engine, they have a Thomas the Tank engine car that pulls the train. The Durango line was founded by the Denver and Rio Grande Railway in 1880. The railroad arrived in Durango on August 5th of 1881, and construction on the line to Silverton began in the fall of the same year. By July of 1882, the tracks to Silverton were completed and the train began hauling both passengers and freight. From the very beginning, the railroad was promoted as a scenic route for passenger service, although the line was constructed primarily to haul mine ores, both gold and silver, from the San Juan Mountains. It is estimated that over $300 million in precious metals has been transported over this route.
By 1885, the population of Silverton had grown to 1,100 people and the $1 million highway had finished construction, lessening the demand for the railway. Throughout the next 20 years, the railroad faced many challenges, including mudslides, floods, snow, war, and financial instability. When the U.S. government entered World War I, it assumed operation of the railroad, and again in World War II, the U.S. government requisitioned the narrow gauge equipment to use in Alaska, and the smelter in Durango reopened to process uranium for use in the war.
In the 1960s, the Durango Silverton was registered as a National Historic Landmark and was also awarded as a National Historic Civil Engineering Landmark. And then, throughout the 1980s, the line continued to build on the scenic tourist railroad industry. Engines and coaches began to be weatherized for winter use, and major track reconstruction occurred as nearly 10,000 ties were replaced.
Locomotives number 497 and 480 were restored and returned to service, the number 497 being the only K-37 to run on the line, and the innovative rail camp was built for use in the summer. In 1985, the railroad purchased the Silverton Depot and returned it to service.
Today, the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad continues to provide year-round train service, operating a historic train with rolling stock indigenous to the line. The locomotives used to pull today's trains are either oil-fired or coal-fired, steam-operated, and diesel. The steam locomotives are 1923 to 25 vintage and are maintained in top condition.
We always opt for the steam engine when we take historic and scenic trail rides if available. It's always a unique experience and typically makes for much more dramatic photos and videos. The trip to Silverton takes about 3.5 hours, and I was initially worried that this would seem like a little long and maybe boring, but truthfully the time went by faster than we expected. You then stop for a 2-hour layover in the town of Silverton. In the 1870s, Silverton became the center of numerous mining camps located in the area. In addition to the miners, Silverton caught the eye of railroad companies in Denver, inspiring the Durango Silverton Railway. During Silverton's early history, Blair Street developed into the red light district. And in May of 1883, a grand jury brought 117 indictments against lewd women, and the prostitutes were fined $5, plus the court costs. And dance halls that were open on Sundays were fined $25.
Although fines were levied, gambling and prostitution were generally accepted as long as the practice didn't migrate into the more respectable sections of town. Today, there is still a town ordinance on the books prohibiting curtains on saloon windows. The law wanted to see what was going on in those dens of iniquity. Nowadays, Silverton is nationally noted for its excellent preservation of such unique history and buildings, the scenic Highway 550, and the variety of shops, restaurants, lodging, camping, museums, and tours.
But as our layover was only 2 hours, there wasn't much time for saloons or lewd women, so we settled on visiting a local coffee shop before heading back to begin our ride back to Durango. Before heading back to the hotel for the evening, we stopped by one of the most popular spots in town, the Cream Bean Berry, for artisanal ice cream. It seems like this might be a railway tradition. The next day, we began our journey on Scenic Highway 550, also known as the $1 Million Highway.
As previously mentioned, we were here at the end of September and did this drive on September 29th. It turned out to line up perfectly with the peak of fall colors in the San Juan Forest. Highway 550 stretches from Durango through Silverton and ends in Ouray, known as the Switzerland of America. The 25-mile stretch from Silverton and Ouray is specifically referred to as the $1 Million Highway.
The highway was built in the late 1800s by road builder Otto Mears in order to support mining operations that had boomed in the area. It was later modernized for automobile travel in the 1920s. There are a couple of different theories as to why it is nicknamed the $1 Million Highway. Some say it was for the high construction cost, averaging $1 million per mile built, a significant sum of money today, but especially back then. Some say it's due to the supposed value of the gold-laden dirt used in its foundation, or it could be just because they were $1 million views. My favorite theory, though, is that people used to say, "I would not drive that highway even if you gave me $1 million."
The route is famous for its breathtaking scenery but has steep cliffs, hairpin turns, and lack of guardrails, making it both beautiful but also ranked among the most dangerous highways in the US. We downloaded an audio guide before the drive that guided us along the highway, giving us tips for where to make stops for scenic overlooks and giving us the history of the route.
Once we made it to the small town of Ouray, we stopped for lunch and then made our way to the Box Canyon Falls. Named as Ouray's own wonder of the world, the 80-foot-tall falls plunge through a narrow quartzite gorge surrounded by sheer cliff walls. The falls is quite powerful, especially in the spring, and the area is filled with a constant mist and roaring sound. In our next video, we wrap up our Western road trip traveling back to Arizona and exploring the city of Phoenix before heading towards the Grand Canyon. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, please leave us a like and consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss the next adventure.